Hello, everyone. It is so good to be back with you all at Dev Days 2026. I am Phil Ellis, Principal Engineer on the DevRel team. I've been here for a while building lots of things, and today I am very excited to show you what we have in ConfigHub with a CI/CD process built on top of it. So most of you have probably seen ConfigHub. Some of you probably played around with it a little bit. And really, ConfigHub is very API driven, and there's a lot of things you can build on top of it. So if you want a CI/CD process, you're kind of expected to build that on your own on top of it. And that's what we at the DevRel team have done for you. We've at least built up some scaffolding, and I'm excited to see where this might go too, depending on how the community and our customers and everyone ends up using it and different feedback we get from it. Really excited to see where it goes. But for today, I'm going to show you the core features that it has. We'll walk through and demonstrate how to set it up in your environment, how to get it going and all that stuff. Right now, you can see on my screen there, I talk about what the current state of ConfigHub is, mostly just importing and exporting configurations. It does have some object mapping built into it and some basic comparison tools as well. But what's powerful about it is the APIs that are exposed through it. When you add in GitHub integration, and as you'll see in a minute, it's very easy to set up, and there's really no reason why any tenant out there shouldn't be using something like this to be able to get some version control behind all their objects in ISC. So that's the first thing it provides, that version control. It gives you the ability to see change tracking. So now you could see when objects have changed over time, what has changed in those objects. And then, of course, ISC provides you the auditing so you can see who changed them as well. It also gives you that backup and restore. It really uses ConfigHub to do that, but it's built into it. So now when you want to do some backup and restore operations, it's a bit easier when you're doing it through this GitHub integration that we've built. And of course, a lot better visibility to what's going on in your instance. There's so many use cases that I think of when how this could be useful inside of your environment, but how many times, or if this has ever happened to you, if it hasn't happened to you, then you are truly blessed. But if it has happened to you and you haven't had something like this set up, you can see how frustrating it can be where a role changes or something in a source changes and suddenly it's not working properly. And you're questioning like what changed, when did it change, how did this happen? And not all of those answers are easy to get today. With this integration in place, it'll be very easy to see all those things and get answers to those questions. So the next time a source stops working and you've got, maybe 15, 20 admins, maybe even more than that, going into your system and changing things around, you can actually go and actually see the history of what happened. And maybe the reason why it stopped working is not because of a bug or some kind of issue in ISC or some issue on your side with the code, but really it was just a configuration that changed that somebody made inadvertently, didn't realize that it would have some other effects. And now you're able to see that. You have the insight into that. All right, so I'm going to go over this live in a minute, but this is what I wanted to highlight right now as the steps for setup. It's extremely easy. You just fork the repository or clone it, however you feel more comfortable. You create your personal access token specifically for this environment. You add it into GitHub, and you are ready to go. That is it. So I'm going to show that in a little bit. That's why I have the live demo here. So let's get started. All right, so you start in the GitHub repository. This is the public collab item for the ConfigHub history. And there is a nice README here, so it kind of walks you through how to do everything. We don't need to worry about that today, but if you're setting it up in the future, it's a nice reference point to have. If you're watching the video, then I'll basically be going over everything in there, plus a lot more too. So don't skip the video. Make sure and watch this because I will go over everything in detail. And it's probably good and useful information for you. The first thing you're going to want to do really is fork this repository. So I'm going to do it that way. You could also clone it and then push it into your own GitHub instance, or even if you have like GitLab or some other version control repository that you could use, you could do that as well. It wouldn't be too hard to transfer this thing over to it. But we've built this specifically for GitHub Actions. So I'm going to do that right now. Let me go ahead and fork this. And I will bring this into my own environment. And we'll name this Days Backup. I think that's a good one. And we'll go ahead and create this fork. We'll say copy the main branch only. That's the only one that you need in this case. So now I have that living in my own repository. The one thing you should note here, it is public, okay? So the very first thing you're going to want to do if you fork this is make it private, because you probably don't want to expose your configurations to the world. And we're going to do that in the settings for this particular repository. You scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see this Leave Fork Network button. You can click on that. It'll warn you a ton because it's like, hey, do you really want to do this? And it's like, yes, we really want to do this. So make sure and just follow through with all the steps. Click the Leave Fork Network button. Oh, I got to get my two-factor authentication. So let me do that real quick. It won't take long. Here we go. One of the good things about it and the bad things about it. Got to do it. Oh, and of course I wasn't highlighted in there, so let me do this again. All right, so we're set there. So now if I scroll down, we should see it's no longer part of the fork network. It says detach and process. That doesn't take long, so let me just refresh again. Okay, try one more time. Okay. As with all live demos, there's always those unexpected errors that happen. Okay, so now we've left the fork network, so this is its own individual thing, and now I can change the visibility to private. That's really what I want to do. I want to make it private. I understand these effects. I want to make this repository private, and once I do all those things, now it's a private repository. We did it. Okay. So that was the first thing I wanted to show. Make sure it's private. Now I can, back up all my config without even worrying about this all getting sent publicly to anyone else who wants to see my ISC configuration, which might not be the end of the world, but it's definitely not something you want to share. All right, so the next thing here is in my actual tenant, which I'm already logged in, but in my tenant, I'm going to go to my user preferences, personal access token, and I'm going to create a new token. So this is for Dev Days 2026. And for our scopes, there are actually, you don't have to have all scopes for this. They are listed in the GitHub repository, which scopes you will need on the top here. SP read, SP manage. For now, just for simplicity, I'm just going to use all. Don't want to risk it during a demo. And the expiration date, I'll go ahead and just set for tomorrow. Just won't need these after that. So go ahead and create these. And now we have our secret and our client ID. And I'm going to leave that open for a minute because the next thing I need to do, I had my stuff open from my last demo. Let me clear out of that. Is I need to clone this into my local workspace. So let me copy the clone URL and go in here and git clone and clone this all down. All right, and then cd dev days backup, and let's open this up in Visual Studio Code. It's the window opened up over here. All right, so really briefly, we can look at, I can make this slightly bigger. We can look at everything that's going on the side here. You can see this backups folder. There's nothing in there yet, as expected. And the scripts are all there, though, so the backup scripts are there. And there's also this .env example. Well, we need a real .env, so I'm going to copy this over. And I'll go ahead and rename this. This is going to be my real env file. And now I just need to fill out these three things. And if you recall, we have them already there for us over here. So our secret, I think that copied, it took a minute. Secret and our client ID. And our tenant. One thing to be careful of here is this tenant needed to have .api added to it like that. So this is actually the API that you'll be using. Okay, so that's set up. And now the next thing I need to do to set this up is in GitHub, I need to add the same things. So let's go back to GitHub, go to our settings, our secrets for settings, actions, and a new repository secret. So we need to add our first one, tenant URL. And that in there. And save that. So we'll have our tenant saved. And we need another one, our client ID. Save that one away. Let's add that secret. And then our client secret. So we can add all three of these in. Save those away. Okay, and at this point, our repository is essentially all set up. The only thing we have to do is just enable actions. I'll do that here, and now our actions are enabled. And every single day, there's going to be a backup taken of my configuration in ISC. That's it. That's the beauty of this, is that you set up that little bit right there. And at this point, you're pretty much hands off. Now, you can do more with it, which I'm going to show in a little bit. But if all you want to do is just get a running backup of your system happening every day with the change control and everything in there, you're done at this point. You've done everything you need to do. What I'm going to show next, though, is kind of the power of having more capability in there. So give me a second here. I'm just going to set up this guy to get where I am. Making sure I didn't miss anything that I wanted to show you. Okay, yeah, so let me start now with our first backup. So if I go back into our dev days backup folder and open up a terminal, as you recall, there's nothing in the backups folder. But if I run this little command, the scripts backup.js, then it's going to back up everything out of ISC. So it looks like our authentication happened, and it looks and finds all the different exportable types, and it looks like my backup is in process. So very shortly here, fingers crossed, we have all our objects. And now if I look in my backups folder, look at that. All of my objects for my tenant are now stored, and they're ready to be used in whatever way I'd like. So I can go ahead and look at these now. Like for example, the role object that we have here. In this, ConfigHub exports everything the exact same way. So every object in here has like the ID of the object, and then within here, this envelope, this object envelope, has the actual definition of what it is in JSON. So if I minimize this, you'll see the other thing that's in here is it gives you like the type role. So everything is categorized in here by a folder structure and by role there, okay? So I showed you how it works locally. I could now commit these changes if I would like to. So I can do a git commit. Oh, I want to add these first. Okay, so add all those files that I just created. And git first backup. All right. So those I can push. And now if I go back to GitHub, where my code is, I will see in my backups folder the beta 15156 folder directory with my first backup all in there. So I'm good to go. And you'll see these change over time as things are brought in. There's a lot of cool features that this has, because now I'm going to run another backup from within here. Let's see if I go to my actions, and there's this daily ISC backup that will run every day, but you can also run it manually. So again, I actually cloned this down and showed you how to run it locally. For this to work, you don't actually have to clone it and run it locally. You can just, like I said, set it up in GitHub, enable the actions, and then it'll start doing the backups automatically. You don't have to even know how to run this in your own environment at all. It's just a nice thing to have. And the cool part about it is you can even run the workflows manually, so you don't have to, you know, how I was actually running the command to do the backup, or it happens every day, or you can just in GitHub click this run workflow and it'll do the same thing. So I'm going to run it right now so you can see that happening. While that's running, I'll take a little sip here. And we'll take a look at the output of this too. Let me click on it. It's still waiting for a container. There it goes. And this usually runs pretty quickly. It doesn't take long for this to run. It's essentially running the same script that we had run earlier. There is one additional thing this will do too, though, and we'll get into that a little bit. The tokens that are created, not only does it do a backup, it also does this token refresh with each automated backup. That's in the GitHub action itself. All right, so what you'll notice here is that it says 0 updated. And that is because we didn't make any changes in our tenant. This is kind of the cool part about this. It looks at and sorts all the JSON objects. So that way, even if something is in an array and it's sorted differently when those objects come in, it won't see those change sets. It'll actually skip over them and only makes commits for real changes in there. It even has some logic to check for like noise only config option objects, because sometimes like timestamps will change, or like just like these reference IDs change, but there's not actually any configuration changes, so it'll skip over those. So this gives you truly only changes that have actually happened in your environment, not just like mixed changes. So when you look at your history of everything that's going on, you'll know what is a real change or not. So anyway, process all those, 0 updated. And you'll note also, if I go back, let me go back into here, and I'll do a git pull, we'll actually see that we brought in some other stuff. And the big thing that we brought in is this vars file, which we'll get into in a little bit. Before I go in there, let me just go into the workflow for the backup and show you what's going on here, just so you can understand it. So every day at 6 a.m. UTC, this is going to run. And what I just ran manually is what's going to run every day. And it really just does two things. First, it runs that backup script that I showed you running. And then next, it runs this vars script that I also showed you running. We can do that too manually. So let me copy this command over. And if I run this, this is the thing that seeds the vars, okay? So that basically did the exact same thing. It literally just takes a looks at everything in your backup and everything in your token paths and creates the vars. I don't want to get too much into that quite yet, because I want to show you some other things first. So I'm just going to reset this so we don't have to worry about it, because it really didn't change. And let's go back into our tenant. And let's actually make a change and see what happens. So we can go into our admin setting. Let's look at our roles. And there's this sales engineering role that I want to change. So let me edit this. And I'm going to go ahead and change this owner to, say, Adam Kenny. Save that. And now we've made a change to our configuration. Our source owner has been changed. So we should expect something to happen now if we run a backup. So let me do it. I'm going to do that within, I'll do it here now, okay? Doesn't really matter where I do it, but let's do our, did I miss it? There it is, okay. Our backup. There's actually two ways you can run this. I'm running it with Node here directly. There's also an npm run backup that you could use. So either way will work. The npm run backup is nice because you can see it in your package JSON right here. Yeah. But this one will also work. So if I run this now, we should expect to see a change happening. Let's see if that's true. So we'll wait for that export to happen. And again, it's a good thing these don't take very long to run. I suppose depending on the size of your environment, some of these might take a bit longer, but in this case, it's just a test tenant, so not much data to export. All right, so we exported our objects, and now we see one updated. Okay. And this is the best part. All right. So when you look at this, now we actually get an audit trail that's being created by Git automatically. And we can see exactly what happened. We removed Alan Bradley, and we added Adam Kennedy. We can see the modified timestamp changed, and the owner ID also changed. And now I can see it right in my Git commit history. Everything is there for me to see. I can commit this change up now if I would like, which might as well. Oh, source owner. That's better. Okay. Now, if I had run that backup from GitHub, it would have done the commit and everything automatically, but for demonstration purposes, we'll do it manually here. And now if I go back into GitHub, again, this is where it gets kind of cool. I don't know, for me anyway. If I go back into my backups folder and then look in here, you can see right on the right-hand side, it even has last commit date, 7 minutes ago, and then now. And so I can see this is the only thing that changed. And then I can look and see, oh, this is the actual file that just changed just now. Everything else has been the same. This one just changed right now. And I can click into there to see it. Now, this is showing you how to do everything manually, but there's something else that I want to show you. The UI development kit, we've added a component to this to be able to navigate all of this automatically. So let me show you that now. If I go into the UI development kit, there is this ConfigHub section. And in here, you can actually configure access to the repository and then navigate and see everything that's inside of it. In order to do that, there's a couple things we need to do. The first thing is we need to create a GitHub personal access token. So if I go here and I look, here's my GitHub API token. So I need to do that by going into, I believe it's here, and then settings, all the way to the bottom, developer settings. And OAuth apps, personal access token, fine-grained tokens we can use. I actually already have one created, but I'm just going to go through the steps so you can see it, and we'll use that token as well. And this will be called Dev Days 2026. And we can make it expire in 7 days, that's fine. And we can actually give it access to just select repositories. So what was that one anyway? Dev Days Backup. I think that was the right one. I actually can't really remember now. I've been adding so many of these. Then we can add the permissions. And in this case, I think we only need, oh, where would it be? contents, repository contents, commits, branches, download. Yep, that looks right. Read-only access to those. And we can generate a token. Yep. So let's copy that guy out. And go back into ConfigHub. And let me go ahead and paste them in there. Hopefully this all works. And then we also need to reference this repository, which if I go back to Dev Days backup and look at this copy over this SSH, I can go back and paste that in here. This is my repository URL. And my vars path is vars, my default branch is main, my backup is backups beta. So that's already correct. So I don't have to change any of that. But of course, if you were setting this up from scratch, you need to fill all this information out. Save these settings and refresh. And if I did it right, it should bring them in. And you can see now I've got all my objects showing up here that I can use now to do my backups with. And what's really cool is if I navigate this, you saw before when I was navigating in GitHub, I could only see, let me just look real quick at these roles. I only got the object ID, so it's kind of hard to see what's going on with these. I have to like click into it to see, but in here we actually pull those names out. So now you can see, oh, there's the sales engineering one. That's the one that I changed, and you can see it was changed 4 minutes ago. I can click on it, and I can even see the change that happened. So how cool is that? You can now see the changes real time right within the UI development kit. You can also see them by commit. So if I click on by commit, then you'll see the same thing. Now, this is the only commit that I have, so there's not a whole lot to look at here, but that could be useful if multiple changes are happening and you want to see them happening live. So by object, by commit, all able to be seen right within here. So let's go back to this one. However, so now visibility into what's changing, we have that pretty well figured out. How about what if we actually want to update or take these changes and roll them back? So now we can do that as well. So if somebody came in and changed this role and I was like, now wait a minute, that was incorrect. It shouldn't have been changed to Alan Bradley. It should still be Adam Kennedy doing this. So I can actually restore this version. So let me do that real quick. Click restore this version and click restore. So now this is going to talk to ConfigHub. It says successfully processed. So now let's look and see what did that do. I'm going to go into my tenant again and look at ConfigHub and look at my uploads. And you look at, there's an upload that I just made. So let's see what's going on here. View the summary, view the details. Got to click a lot around in here to see what's actually happening, but it is here. And you can see that now I'm going to be rolling this back to Alan Bradley, that other identity. So at this point, if I want to do that, then I can do it. Let's see here. And prepare draft for deployment. All right, it says, yep, it's going to modify this one thing. We can just look at it just to validate it, that it looks right. Yep, it's going to change Adam Kennedy to Alan Bradley. So it's reverting that change back as a JSON view, which is nice. Probably the change log is almost the best way to look at it. And let's see here. What do I do? I go back to draft summary and deploy draft. Buttons are all over the place. Deploy. And so let's watch this happen now. The question is, did it work? I'm pretty sure it will, but we can validate just to make sure. Deployment successful. Hit close. And now if I exit out of ConfigHub and go back into ISC, into my roles, and there it is. It updated just like we wanted. So now you can see how easy it is to go from a change that you didn't want and roll back to a change you do want. Obviously, that's a very simple example. But again, we're relying on ConfigHub. ConfigHub is the backbone of this. So if there's any issues, if you run into issues, you can rely on ISC support to help to resolve with those, because all we're doing is just using the APIs to push things up there. All right, so let's move on. I was going to show you how to do it in the, the backup and restore. Oh, yeah, but let's move on because there's more we got to do, and we're going to run out of time otherwise. So the next thing I want to talk about are the token paths. Okay, so I talked about these variables, and you see what we have in here. We've got all these IDs and all these things going on. This is automatically generated every time a backup happens. And you can see we've got variables here and matching key pairs for every single kind of thing in your tenant. And they're organized by object type and name and what they are. And that way, you can actually tokenize any data in your tenant. So if you have information that's in one tenant and it differs from, let's say, your staging tenant to your production tenant, you can create tokenization. This is similar to what ConfigHub offers through object mappings, but it's a little more generic in that the tokens can happen for every single object, and they can happen at all times for any object. So in the object mapping in ConfigHub, it's like this object and this value gets converted to this object and this value. And here it's more generic. It's just anytime it sees this object with this name, it's going to set it to this ID. So if we go back and look at what we have here, how did this get generated? Well, it's all driven from this tokenpaths.json. Cool part about this is while this is structured kind of automatically, this is what comes with it, it's probably missing some things. It's definitely not perfect for your organization, especially in the source fields, right? Because there's all these connector attributes, and I don't have all the connector attributes that you have that you want to tokenize, especially things like different URLs, and you can see they've got client ID, client secrets, things like that in here. In your case, you probably have a lot of sources and a lot of different connector attributes, but because this is generated from this, you can just update this token paths with any fields that you want to have tokenized, and it'll automatically populate the entire vars file from that. And that happens automatically. I showed you the command to do it, but it also happened automatically with each backup. So if a new object comes in, it'll actually generate that for you automatically. Now, why is this useful? I'm going to show you that in a second. Okay. I mean, I think you can probably get it, why it's useful, but let's go a little further and just kind of examine this in depth and see what happens here. So I'm going to simulate kind of this default tenant. So let's copy and paste this. And we'll rename this to just default. And let's make a dummy backup too, okay? Oops. All right, so now we've got two sets of information here. I'm going to even commit this up. So we've got it up in GitHub. All right. Very good. So let me show you something now. This is where it gets kind of cool. I just need to find the command here. So there's a way to compare these things. And this is where, like I said, it gets really cool. I thought it was push mapping. No, that's not it though. Store, tokenize. Here we go. Yeah, here it is. Okay, it's the tokenize command. So now if I copy and paste this command, I can use this diff tenants command, and I can compare my beta tenant to my default tenant. If I run this, then it'll show, hey, everything is identical. Everything's tokenized, nothing needs to be tokenized, etc., etc. But now I can make some changes. So let me go into my default tenant, and I'll just go into role because this one's easy to go into. And maybe I set, I really don't know what I'm going to set here, but let me just set something like reauthorization required to true. If I run this again, now I find some issues. I need this to be tokenized. And it shows me exactly what needs to be tokenized. So it shows me the two tenants. It shows me what's different between the two tenants. And it shows me, hey, you probably need to tokenize this because you've got some incompatibilities between these two tenants. So you might want to set that up. That's pretty cool. At the same token, okay, if I'll revert that change, or I actually, you know what, I want to revert that change. I'll keep it how it is. I'll just open up another role like this one. And if you look at the tokens here, token paths, 4 roles, you see we've got owner ID and owner name tokenized already. So if I go into this role and I change the owner ID, let's say I change this to this, okay, they're different now, but when I run this, it'll actually show, hey, it's okay that they're different because it's already tokenized. So those differences are going to get picked up and copied over properly between the two tenants. So that's kind of, this command right here is really, really helpful for understanding if you have a staging environment and a production environment, and you want to see like how in sync are things, then you can use this command to do it. And it also tells you how to set up your, your CI/CD in such a way that things will remain consistent over time. Or maybe you just found something that someone changed manually in production that they shouldn't have. That could be the case too. If you really want to keep people, make configuration changes in stage, bring them down, push them up in production, then this process here will help you to do that. Okay, so that's our tokenization. And the one thing I wanted to show too is actually restoring these things. This might take a little bit to set up. So let me look at this role. So we've got our beta role. I'm going to remove this. And let me just go ahead and put in here. And get that back the way it was. And let me get my vars here for my default one. Search for role. And here's sales engineering. What am I missing here? Owner ID, owner name. Okay, we've got Alan Bradley. Let's switch this to be Adam Kennedy. So now my default vars are Adam Kennedy. And in my beta tenant, I've got the ones that they already were. So we got 2 different things here now. So now, if I go ahead and restore this, then it's going to say, hey, token substitution complete. Oh, it didn't upload anything because there's no difference. Hold on, I need to make a difference here. So, the only way I'm going to do that, let's see here, git log. Let me look through my git log here. So create a default, change role owner. So I think this is the one I'm going to actually want. All right, yeah, let me just copy it. Yeah, this one right here. I think that's the one, hopefully. And let me paste that in. So now we're going to actually, this is showing you how to do restore to a certain commit point. So now we're going to do a restore to this commit point. And I think since I did the backup and everything, I think it'll fetch it. We'll see if this works. Yeah, okay, restore complete. So it actually worked. The thing that you'll notice though is that also since I was passing in the tenant. Oh, this just did the restore point. I'm sorry. I missed the default target in there. So let me add that in as well. Almost there, almost there. All right, now I've got it. One more flag here. So we are going to do the restore. We're restoring to this point for this tenant, and we're only going to do the role, and we're going to the var's default. Okay, so this, I think, will actually carry everything over now. Oh, I didn't find any changes. Oh, I know why. If I look at my vars, I think I actually changed it to Adam Kennedy, and that's what we reverted it back to. So I think I'm going to get it this time. We'll see. Let me take one from up here. Owner ID into here. And then owner name. Stop that. Philip Ellis. Try one more time. If this doesn't work, then I'll just have to move on. But pretty sure it will now. Yeah, restore complete. Okay, so now it actually worked, because the problem is it just so happened that the var that I picked, it already existed in the tenant. And so I was like, hey, there's nothing to change here, because I'd already done the revert back. So I changed it to a completely new owner ID and new role in the vars. It used those vars, it substituted them in, and then it created the backup up there. Okay, so we've got a backup up there. We probably have a few others now too. We can look at them and just inspect them and see what's in there. Look at our uploads. This is the one that I just did. It's got to do its hydration. All right, view this guy. And just as I expected, it actually worked. It substituted Philip Ellis in there. So even though Philip Ellis doesn't exist in this backup or in this one, it did the actual environment substitution because I asked it to here, vars default. So it took these vars from default and used all the substitution from in here, the tokenization, to build that config update. So anytime I do some kind of config update, it'll use these. Now, what I want to show you with this, and do the same thing now that I have this set up properly, is that knowing that command, that's kind of like tricky to like have to go through and like find the commit with you and git log and doing all that. You really don't have to know that at all. You can just go into the developer community. Let's refresh this. Let's look at our role, our sales engineering role. We can see the difference here, right? We want to update this. We can say restore this version. And now I can say apply to a different environment. Oh, I want to use my default environment. Click restore. And it even says 2 fields will be remapped. So it even knows like what's going to be remapped and how that's going to work. And we should get the exact same restore happening in ConfigHub. So how cool is that? You can do all your tokenization, your substitution without even knowing all the commands, because it's all built right into the UI development kit anyway. So I definitely wanted to show that. All right, so the last thing is, what about object mapping? Yes, that is also supported. So if you want to do native object mapping, then you can do that too. So what I'm going to show you now is this next command, which is this, push mappings. Now this is actually not supported in the UI development kit. So if you want to use the object mapping that's built into ConfigHub, then you would use this command. You'd have to bring it in here to do it, at least today. I'm sure, based on feedback that we get from this thing and how people use it, we'll probably be adjusting it, changing it, hopefully making it much better. But this is how you push the object mappings. So if I hit enter now, no. Vars file not found. Vars/default. What did I do here? Reads default.vars.yaml. Oh, I don't know. I must have copied one and changed the name of the wrong one. Okay, easy fix. Let's try again. All right, so now we've actually pushed our object mappings into ConfigHub. Let's see what that actually looks like. Get out of here, go back to ConfigHub, go to our object mapping, and look at that. Now we actually have some object mapping in here. I might have a couple extra from before when I was doing it, but essentially we're going to switch this Adam Kennedy or Adam Bradley into Philip Ellis. So either if I get Adam Kennedy, I'm going to switch to Philip Ellis, and if I get Alan Bradley, I'm going to switch to Philip Ellis. As I mentioned, these are like one-to-one exact, right? So now let's actually do a backup and see what happens now that I have those values in there, because I believe my current backup, it's kind of hard to remember where I was at with my current backup and where I'm at, but let's just do a restore natively and see what happens. I do it from here. No, I can actually see it. So I would have been from Alan Bradley to Adam Kennedy. Restore this and just restore it on the normal environment. We'll let this run. All right, it's done. Let me go into ConfigHub again. Into our uploads. Here it is. Let's prepare a draft for deployment. I think this is all I need to do to see the mappings that are going to occur. All right, if I click on this and then click on edit, I think, yeah, okay, here we are. So it's showing Alan Bradley is getting switched to what? Philip Ellis. Why is that? It's because we have the rule substitution. So this like extra thing shows up when you have the object mapping set up in ConfigHub. And this shows you the rules substitutions that are going to apply to this particular backup that you're doing. So you can see here's the old value and here's what your new value is going to be. It's going to actually transform it into Philip Ellis. Okay. So I don't know. We might as well try this out, right? Let's deploy the draft. And I probably want to do this anyway because I had some weird owner on there before. All the other roles are owned by me. It's my tenant, so I should own all the roles. Why not? We'll wait for that to finish. All right, that's done. And let's just validate that that did actually happen the way we wanted it to. And there we go. My primary owner for the sales engineering is indeed Philip Ellis. So it worked perfectly. Okay, we got a little bonus round here. This might be a little bit tricky. We'll see if we can get it up and running in time. So let's say I only showed this with one tenant, really because of timing and the complexity of all this. But obviously in your production environment, you're not going to just have one tenant. You're going to have two tenants. You're going to have your staging or your dev or whatever you use, plus your production tenant, and you want to synchronize between those two things. Well, that can be done. And let me just walk through quickly the steps that you take to do that. And the easiest way to show that is probably within the actual code base. So I'm going to do it here. And what you do is you've got this backup workflow, right? And I'm kind of surprised. What is? Oh, I renamed it. Yeah, that's right. Let me commit that real quick. Properly. Okay. I should have done that in one swoop, but okay, all done. So should be synchronized now. So what we need to do to make this work is you have a couple of different options. And one is you could just edit this backup to do the backup on both of them. I think the easier way to do this is going to be to just copy this backup. And you might rename some things, you might do things a little bit differently just to keep it more well organized. But then I might just rename this and call this staging backup. Okay. And now instead I can name this daily staging IC backup, which is great. And the next thing I need to do is have like different secrets in here, because the secrets right now point to the tenant that I'm looking at. So we'd have to update these to be like something like staging tenant URL. And I'm just going to copy this and do staging client ID, staging client secret. This one too needs to be updated. I believe that's it. So let's see, these 4. This comes from process.uv, so that's good. Okay, yeah, just those 4 should do it. So we'll save that. And then we'll go, and now we need, of course, we need a personal access token. We're going to try and set this up with a little bit of time that we have left. So let me just go into our DevRel tenant. Oh, yep, this is going to hold me up. I know I got it here. Am I going to pick the right one? We'll see. Okay, we got it highlighted. 9 5. Oh. Okay, that worked. Good. And I need to create my personal access token. So let me get this. I actually had one created, but I can't remember the actual amounts for it. So 2026. And expiration date. Okay, for tomorrow. We'll create this, and we're going to do the same thing. You're going to watch me do the same thing, but it's the same thing. So we're going to go over to here. Just trying to think of the best way for me to generate these without me accidentally losing them. All right, so this is the secret. And this is the client ID. And my tenant URL is a little different. All right. And we need that API in there like before. All right, so those should be set. It's env copy. Probably not the best name for it, but it's okay. We'll do this as quickly as we can. We got to go back in here, go back to our settings, secrets, actions, new repository secret. All right, so now these are going to be a little different. I forgot I had that staging, right? Staging underscore, like that. Tenant URL. Edit. And, oh, I forgot to paste this on the other ones. That's all right. I can do that real quick. Boop and boop. Okay, good. Staging client ID. Yeah, okay, perfect. Staging client ID. Save that. And one more. Staging client secret. Maybe a little boring to have me watch me have to do this, but that's okay. We have them all. Client ID, client secret, tenant URL. Perfect. Now let's go back into here. We don't actually need this env anymore. I'm actually what I am gonna do is take this. I'll paste it in my original one so I don't lose it, but I'm just gonna delete this. I'm gonna do that just in case it's not get ignored. You went on get ignored, of course, and this env is get ignored automatically here, but the other one probably was not. So just save it away in here so I've got it where I need it. And now, now that I have this staging backup action running or saved there, I can do a git staging backup. Oh, git add. Got to do that first, I guess, because there's nothing changed. I keep forgetting to do that. Git push. Okay. So now we have the staging action in there. And if I go into my repository, let's see if we can run this. Oh, there it is. Daily staging IC backup. Run workflow. Let's go for it and see what happens. Got multiple tenants now happening in here. It's pretty cool. Waiting for our container to start. Almost ready. Okay, good. And you'll start to see kind of the beauty of having this all set up like this. We've already kind of planned for multiple tenants to be in here. It doesn't just work on one tenant. As soon as it does this backup, this one will take a little longer because, you know, our DevRel tenant actually has some stuff in there. All right. Looks like it's done. Now, if I come in here and do a git pull, we're going to see some other stuff. Look at my backups. I've got this default one that I just manually created. That's almost like my, I don't know, backup of my backup. But I've also have DevRel now. So now I can see everything that's in our little DevRel tenant as well. And the cool part about that is that I can also come here, go into my settings, and in here I can say DevRel. Save these changes, refresh, and now I'm looking at all the objects that are in DevRel. How cool is that? Not only that, but I can do the restore piece. I can apply to the DevRel tenant if I want. Oh, look at this. There's some tokens missing. It'll give me information as to whether that's going to work properly or not. Okay. Again, it's very nice to see. I could even show you how you could do the diff, but obviously the diff between this tenant and DevRel is going to be really, really different. So I think I have this in my, just kind of curious if I do this. Let's just do it together and see what it looks like. Diff tenants. Okay. Let's look at beta versus DevRel. And you'll see it's like, there's so much stuff, but 84 objects are identical. No actual diffs, but there's 167 that are only in the beta, 115, 156, and there's 467 that are only in DevRel, and there's 18 that need to be tokenized. So highlights what you need to do to get these environments into parity. And I hope that shows you kind of the power of this whole tool. It's not everything. I think there's more that we'd like to add to it. But it really takes it to the next level, I feel like, when it comes to being able to do backups and restores within ISC. I would love to hear from the community on this tool, what you think about it, what you'd like to see added in the future. This is something that I'd love to continue to add to. I feel like this is a really, like, it's a building block that could make our ISC tenants really, really great. This is something that I've been pretty passionate about. I've been looking at the best way to make this work for us. I think using ConfigHub and using GitHub together, it's just a great marriage of these two tools. And I hope that all of you find this useful. So definitely reach out after you watch this video, think, boy, I wish you could do this. I wish you could do this. Definitely reach out, give me that feedback. Look for it in Colab. And of course, feel free to add your own pull request to this thing. This is something that I hope to live and grow, and it continues to grow with the community. It's not just something that just DevRel works on. I just built the very starting point for it, but the community can own it and continue to make it better going forward. And of course, right now, it's something that I love and I'm passionate about, so I'd love to work on it too. So anyway, thank you so much. I'm sure you all learned a lot. This is something that's completely new, we've never had before, and I'm really happy to be able to present it to you today. And I hope you're having a great time at DevTays, and I'll see you all later.